I'm Darlene Flagg, and our friend Steve has asked us to put our wonderfully busy lives on hold for a moment to celebrate life. And in doing this, we have to examine the past, the present, and the future. In the past, we have all experienced successes in our lives. If we pause for a moment and ask ourselves what events led to the success, without a doubt, the events involved remarkable people and the kindness of strangers. These are the presents of life. For me, Steve was one of these gifts. We officially met when I began a project involving a new product line for the Japanese market. He magically appeared at my office, introduced himself, and asked, "How can I help?" It was a complicated project, and I was amazed that anybody wanted to help. But I also realized I needed help. The first thing that Steve did was to introduce me to Izumi, who actually constructed a course in Japanese culture and language for us to provide the proper foundation for the project. Concurrently, Steve offered an abundance of insightful articles, books, and introductions to colleagues. And we've all had that experience of Steve's introduction to an enormous wealth of colleagues. All of these were so enormously helpful. And of course, Steve also offered countless counseling sessions, which was also enormously beneficial. Through his generosity of guidance, through his experiential wisdom, his foresight, the project's success surpassed all projections. When I thanked him for his help, there was just a hint of a smile and a slight bow of the head. As I learned from him, I also learned about him. His background and his accomplishments were many and so amazing. And even though most certainly he could have, he never took center stage. He was always behind the curtain, giving praise to others. Steve brought out the best of us. He brought out the best of everyone through his subtle suggestions and his occasional questions. He made us think. He helped us to refine our plan, and when we reached a new level, he was quietly proud and encouraging. So how do we use these gifts that we've been given? How do we use these gifts to create a better future for ourselves and for others? We follow Steve's example, and we incorporate our own version of his benevolence, his generosity of knowledge, his kindness of heart, and his unbounded spirit in every relationship that we encounter. Personally, I will be ever mindful and ever grateful for Steve's leadership and from all I learned from him. Following Steve's example, today and every day, let's celebrate life, and let's celebrate the absent friends and mentors as they enjoy their new lives of service.
Thank you. As luck would have it, when I was rushing out at the house, I said, oh my gosh, I have to be there on time. So I left what I was going to write or was going to say at home. But as technology is so important, my son said, oh Mom, I can pull it up. So I don't have everything I was going to say, but I'll just share a little bit. Brian Andrew Chalker wrote a poem, A Reason, a Season, and a Lifetime. And when I was thinking about Steve, I was thinking about, how people come into your life for a reason. And the poem goes on to say, a reason, a season, a lifetime. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. When you figure out which it is, you know exactly what to do. When someone in your life is for a reason, it is usually to meet a need you have expressed, outwardly or inwardly. They have come to assist you through a difficult time, or to provide you with guidance, support, and to aid you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And when I thought about that poem, I thought about the way I thought Steve came into my life. I am a single mother to a son, and his father is mostly in his life, but Steve just, took Cameron to heart. I remember I had come to teach one Saturday, and I said, Steve, I know this is also your home, but can I bring my son? And he's like, oh, sure, bring him. And Zumi would be downstairs, but Steve would be upstairs. So, I wouldn't see him until I was about to leave. So he got up and, came and talked to Karen. And as I was leaving, we parked in the back, I saw this man standing on the sidewalk, just waving. And I said, wow, most people think like, okay, your teaching lesson is overseas. But he really would, constantly talk to me about Karen. If Karen had a play, he would try to come see it, even though he tried for 2 hours to get to Ann Arbor, he got lost. And Zumi called me and said, Steve's coming back home. But I thought that was really special, that he took the time to come. So then I said, okay, Cameron's having a 16th birthday party. And he was like, you know what, I'm coming. And, through the years, he would, email me or say something to me about Cameron. And I'm thinking, wow, he really cares. Not just, because I have worked with him, but because he genuinely cared about Cameron's education. I would be so happy to call and tell him now that Cameron is studying Japanese. And this was like, wow. Even though I have been to Japan, I have a love of the Japanese culture, and Steve and I used to talk about it. For Cameron to be studying Japanese, I feel it's because of Steve. And Izumi, that Steve kept on saying he wanted to get together. He would email me, Cameron would call me and say, Mom, I want to see Steve. So it was the hardest thing to tell him to stay for Paris. But I feel like I know June and Ken because I saw Ken skydiving. Steve would say, okay, Tracy, you got a minute? Let me show you something about my kids. I'm like, okay, but you got a minute? Let me share something about Cameron. And the highest compliment I could give him is that he reminded me of my dad. Just a wonderful person who cared about people, who liked to bring cultures together. And the hardest thing it was also for me to do was to go to the state of Michigan from Suzuki Mines. Because I really love the family feel. But in Steve's fashion, he told me, you know what? We would hate to lose you. But you have to do what's best for you and Ken. So I feel like he came to my life for a reason. He only stayed for a season. But what he shared with me and my son will last us for a lifetime.
Very grateful for the speech writing aspect, or never speak without preparing aspect of Japanese culture, because I just really wanted to just say what Steve meant to me, and it just kind of all came out one night. So this is what I had, and this is what you get. So I first met Steve at the annual dinner for the Japan-American Society of Detroit and Windsor, where I was the lowest ranking attendee and presenter. Most of the people were hoping to get that one chance to talk with the presidents or diplomats that were there, but not Steve. Steve clearly wanted to talk with everyone. He even took the time to come over and congratulate one obviously nervous and intimidated presenter, which was especially kind since it really was not a great presentation. The next time I met Steve, we were all seated in preschool chairs in a preschool room, having been asked to help launch and grow what was then called the Japan-America School of Southeast Michigan. Steve's enthusiasm for what together we renamed Hinoki International School, it was boundless. No idea he ever presented was just mentioned. It was thoroughly researched. It was never just presented, but always professionally performed. It was my job, unfortunately, to give that enthusiasm boundaries. Through that process, we developed a strong mutual respect for each other, and I have seriously considered adding another bullet point to my resume that states that I somehow channeled the enthusiasm of the great, charismatic, passionate Stephen D. Myers, keeping him mostly politically correct. Though I'm sure it will have been mentioned by others tonight, if ever there was anyone more openly proud of his brilliant, beautiful wife and children, I have not met them. Steve taught me these 3 main lessons. 1, never miss a chance to connect with someone, and when you do, be proud of yourself and those you love. 2, relationships have to come first. Make the time to really get to know anyone you have to work with, ideally over sake. 3, all capital letters in an email may simply mean that the person writing lives every day of their life in all capital letters, which is, of course, the best way. Thank you for everything, Steve. You are missed, you are loved. Otsukaresama deshita. And I'm going to read some in Japanese because Steve would want me to. So if you understand what I'm saying and you catch a mistake, pretend it didn't happen. So, 頑張ります。どなたかもうおっしゃったかもしれませんが、スティーブほど彼の美しい奥様とお子さんたちについてオープンに誇りを持っていた人に会ったことがありません。そのこととスティーブを知ることによって学んだ次の3つの教訓を私は忘れることはないでしょう。第一に誰かと接する機会は絶対逃さないこと、そして自分の愛する者たちについてオープンに誇りとすること。第二にはまずは関係づくり、一緒に仕事をする人たちのことをよく知るための時間を割くこと。第三、すべて大文字で書かれたメールは単に常に大文字で生きている、つまり最高の生き方をしている人によって書かれただけのことかもしれないということ。スティーブ、本当にありがとう。あなたは今でもかけがえのない人でみんなの心に生きています。お疲れ様でした。チャウチャウ。